Hi, this is Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project. Sitting in my new tiny home. It doesn't look like much yet, but it's going to be. So, there is a ton of discussion, suggestions, and ideas on the comments about how I should do this or that. And first I want to thank you all. I have learned a lot of valuable stuff from people from the comments. Oh, by the way, hope you all love my fashion. I get a lot of comments about sandals and socks. It's easy to slip on when I come outside, and who's going to see it? Anyway, I want to thank you all for all the help, suggestions, and advice. I have really learned a lot. I've also become extremely overcautious in my planning here and in what I'm going to do. Almost so much that I'm sometimes second-guessing myself, but I'd rather be overcautious than to mess up. Now, I'm going to give you an overview of how this is going to be built, because instead of answering 5,000 comments one at a time, a lot of the advice is the same, so I'm going to explain everything. I've got some ideas from people, so I've taken the best of everything and I'm integrating it into my home. So what we have here is an I-beam frame, and we've got supports in the middle. Now every 4 feet there's an extension coming out. They're 12 inches long by 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. And starting from the back, what I'm going to do is actually bend them back into shape. And those were where the original camper was bolted in place. And that's going to be their purpose again. All those little supporting brackets are going to be where I've fastened the house to the frame. That's pretty much their only purpose now. I thought long and hard about lowering my floor frame below the level of the metal frame here, but that's really going to be a lot of work. I don't want to be cutting my wood and reducing structural integrity. So how this is going to be, very simple. The original camper was built on this frame and it held up for 35 years. The only reason it decayed and fell apart because the roof had a leak up front. The previous owners or somebody smashed it, ripped open a gash, somebody left it wide open, water got in and flowed into the floor throughout the whole length of the trailer. Then instead of ripping off the, vinyl coating, they just put down plywood boards on top of a wet floor, which basically kept that water in and didn't allow the wood to dry. They patched up the hole, but the damage was there and the rot was beginning, and all that wood rotted. Then the walls had nothing supporting them on the outsides. There was no floor frame left, there was no floor left. All the weight of the whole camper was hanging on the outside. And that's why the outside walls sagged. There was no support at all. And that's why some of these cross beams, these support brackets, are bent. Because there was nothing there. So from really studying, learning, getting a lot of advice, this is how the tiny home is going to be built on this trailer frame. I'm going to start with a doubled up 2x6. 2x6 by 10 foot on the back edge and also on the outside ends. A double 2x6, what's called a load bearing beam. A good friend of mine helped me figure this out and showed me how to make one. A piece of that OSB that I got, sandwiched in between two 2x6s, the whole length, glued together, nailed, screwed together. Every second beam, I'm going to have 24 on center 2x6s, and every second beam is going to be a doubled up load bearing beam. I know it might be some bit of overkill, a little bit of weight, but I prefer to have that. The trailer frame can handle 7,000 pounds. As long as I don't exceed that, I'm good to go. No matter what's on top, as long as it's not too high, and the house supports itself. My biggest concern is the house supporting itself on the outside edges. Therefore, 2x6s, and then I'm going to have rock wall. First of all, I'm going to build a whole 2x6 frame, and then I'm going to tip the whole thing off the trailer, and I'm using aluminum flashing to cover the whole complete underside of that frame. That's going to stop, I'm using treated lumber by the way, that's going to stop mice and bugs and ants especially from getting in there. I'm going to flip the whole thing back over onto the trailer frame, and then I'm going to caulk around every seam to seal that airtight. I don't want any wind, any airflow, any insects, or anything coming up through the floor. That'll stop mice and most bugs. Then I'm putting rock wool insulation in the flooring. I have studied, and rock wool is mouse and ant resistant. Most insects don't like it. Mice don't chew through it. It's made out of natural rock mineral material. It is actually a byproduct, from what I've understood, from slag from the metal industry. So it's good recycling. And it holds its form. It insulates even after it's been wet. And I've studied it heavily. I was not going to use pink fiberglass because mice love it. The price of rock wool is actually going to be per 8 foot by per 4 by 8 section. Rock wool is going to be $10 cheaper than styrofoam and have the same R value. So I'm going to have R15 on the floor, rock wool, and then goes my 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood, which will be my actual house floor. After I put up the 2x4 framing and get the roof on, then I'm going to sand and varnish the whole floor, and that will be my floor. So that's how I'm going to reduce weight. A lot of people put down the plywood and then they put something on top of that. That's a lot of weight. The flooring is a lot of weight. I'm eliminating all that. It's going to be sanded and varnished plywood. There's some fine looking plywood that I found that'll work perfect and look beautiful. The framing will be the 2x6s with rock wool insulation with house wrap, and then I'm going to use 1/4 inch plywood on the outside for siding. I'm going to have a board and batten exterior, board and batten. The plywood will be on the outside 1/4 inch for lightweight, and then varnished, caulked around the seams, and then the battens will go on every 2 feet. It's going to be 1x4s, varnished on both sides, caulked around the seams, nailed in place, caulked around the seams, and especially first caulked over the gap of the plywood where the 2 pieces of plywood meet. And that's going to be airtight and watertight. And then I'll probably varnish the whole thing again afterwards. Let me see, it covers that. A metal roof, which is cheap and ultra lightweight with 2x4 framing. Everything's 24 on center, the whole place, the whole complete building 24 on center to reduce weight. The interior, 1/4 inch plywood, sanded, varnished. That's for the bathroom and the study, the battery room, and the kitchen. The living room will have pine, tongue and groove, 1/4 inch. Tongue and groove pine, which is really pretty and really give me a nice appearance, nice look in the living room. And the loft is going to be 2x4 framing with 1/2 inch plywood, sanded and varnished. And I'm going to have 2 load-bearing beams coming across to the opposite wall where the walkway goes through. I'm going to have 2 rough-cut wood beams going across. It'll look really nice. And the cabinets I'm going to make all myself using pallet wood. Now, there's the hard part. Everything's got to be lightweight, so the cabinets, I'm going to have to look for the thinner oak boards for the cabinetry, or sometimes you can find pine, but I will use pallet wood for all my kitchen cabinets and my shelving as much as I can. It's going to be really pretty. My countertops, I'm going to use pallet boards, and I'm going to have like a staggered spacing of pallet boards all glued and screwed together and then thickly varnished on top, and that'll be my countertops around the kitchen sink and the workspace and everything. I might even build my own coffee table and kitchen dining table out of pallet wood. Really been looking online and studying a lot about how tiny homes are built, about using pallet wood, about building with wood, and I think it'll really look amazing. So I hope that covers everything. The frame of the trailer, just to come back to that, because there's so many people talking about reinforcing the frame of the trailer. I don't think it's necessary as long as I stick with 7,000 pounds. And that 7,000 pounds also included all the water tanks and all the appliances, all the cabinets. It also had a lot of press board in there, which is heavy stuff. I'm not going to have any of that, although I will have the oak. So I think I can do it. The 2x6 framing is going to hold the weight of the walls, and as long as it's not compromised by cutting it or lowering it on the frame here, I think it's going to be okay. So I don't think I have to reinforce the metal frame by using the 2x6s and the load-bearing beams. Now, I think it could be too much for one video to explain all the details of where the windows and doors and everything else are going to be, but I have it all on paper. I have a whole file folder, a whole ring binder full of my notes and drawings and diagrams and measurements. So I've really worked this out to the finest detail. So I hope that clears things up. I'm going to upload this video right away, so you'll see everything today, and hopefully that'll answer most of your comments before I answer and reply to the same thing again and again and again. But again, thank you all very much for all the suggestions and advice. A lot of what I'm doing here comes from you guys, so thank you. And if I'm not taking your particular advice, please don't be upset. It doesn't mean I'm ignorant. It just means I can't take everybody's advice. I have to build it one way. I'm weighing everybody's suggestions. I thought about welding, I thought about metal, I thought about costs, I thought about weight. Don't forget metal equals weight. I've really weighed a lot of this, everything, and I'm, you know, please don't be upset if I didn't choose your particular advice, but I want to thank everybody. It all helps. It really gave me a lot to think about, and I think, honestly, this is our project. You guys are helping. This is a big group thing, and without you guys, this wouldn't happen, so thank you.